Getting our friends together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door, which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Today. Must be 21 plus. Not available in all locations. Man, I wish they had Drizzly when I used to play D&D and Riffs. Maybe it's time for me to start again. Thanks, Drizzly.
Do you ever feel like life is a never-ending series of lessons while you try to find purpose, meaning, and answers? I am Vanessa Fontana, the host of Figuring Shit Out, a podcast where we undertake self-help, coming of age, and healing. As I live my 20s in New York City figuring shit out myself, I've realized that if you spend your whole life trying to get your act together, you don't have a life. You have an act. On Figuring Shit Out, every Sunday you get to normalize the journey of not knowing and be guided into living your life with more intention and ease.
The podcast playground.
Hooray! Hey! It's my song! Let's sing it! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Come on! It's gonna be fucking awesome! You know the words! It's gonna be fucking awesome! That's it! Sing! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Yeah!
Hey, everybody. It's Jesse Blaze Snyder here, the coolest geek alive. And that is not a boast, my friends. That is my solemn oath to you to always strive to be the most educated professional in geek culture who always knows the best ways to adapt beloved geek culture properties. Of course, that is with love and respect. Because as the great Doomcock might say, without respect, we reject. If you don't know who Doomcock is, you probably don't watch a lot of YouTube. I digest a lot of YouTube, and he's a little hero of mine on the interwebs. He does a great kind of Dr. Doom-based character, you know, and presents for mature audiences sort of presentation of insider information out of Hollywood and scoops, and he's been discredited. But all the discrediting of him, I think, is really bullshit. I think he's an honest guy, and he's bringing the information as he gets it, but people don't really like when you're leaking information. But for somebody like me and wanting to be as educated as I possibly can be, I'm always listening to the rumors and the things that are going on and keeping my ear to the ground. And of course, I'm in the business, so there's various things that you hear, just having friends and relationships that exist because I'm in that world. So, that helps me to get there. But yeah, I wanted to say that, and I think I'm going to try to start saying that or some variation of that at the beginning of every show, because I want everybody to know, Coolest Geek Alive is a pledge. I have a tattoo on my arm that says Coolest Man Alive. And it's not like me trying to be a jerk. And I know I've said this before, but I don't say it on every episode, and I'm going to try to say it more like at the beginning of every episode. It's really just a pledge to the people around me to be a good person, a righteous person, somebody who opens doors for people. And I mean that in more ways than one. I think talented people can't be afraid of the other talented people, and I think a lot of times they are, and they tend to kind of hold each other down. There's this terrible metaphor that goes the other way about these crab cages and how they don't have tops, and you would think that the crabs would crawl out of the crab cages, but as it turns out, when the crabs climb on top of the other crabs to get out, the crabs below them tear them apart. And that's really terrible metaphor for a lot of what's going on. Not only do you have people beneath you trying to prevent you from sort of upstaging them when you're trying to be a talented person and make it, competition from other people, even though it's not really competition, like things are meant to be, and they really are. I really believe the math and things are sort of lining up all the time, because most people are living very unconsciously to not be able to change anything about what they're doing. And the things kind of fall as they may, which is why, as like a white person, which it's so stupid that I have to think of myself as a white person now. Like I never, I've just like I never, color just was never like a thing that I thought anything about. It's so fucking aggravating to have like just like, it's funny because I still don't think color on like any other level other than it keeps being pointed out to me that that there's a white culture, and I look in the mirror and I go, well, I suppose I am this person they're talking about. And I'm like, I don't feel white. And I'm actually like a really spiritual person. I believe in reincarnation. I've had meditation, really deep meditation experiences where I've experienced past lives. And I think in my previous life I was a Native American, and I have a lot of affinity to Native American culture because I think that's where I came from. And a lot of people who struggle with their identity, I think that's the missing link, and I don't want to argue with people about whether reincarnation is real. But for me, as an atheist, for years and years and years and years, I always left room for the possibility that reincarnation was a thing. I guess so. And then I realized that, what came first, the chicken or the egg? The idea for both. Idea comes before form. So that would mean that there was an idea machine on the other side of this physical thing, right? So within that concept, reincarnation really started to make a lot more sense. And then I read a book that I would really recommend to you because it's super cool, especially you writers out there. Stuff, there's so many cool books in like the esoteric domain, the world of mystical stuff. There's just, we tend not to believe testimonials, but man, there's some testimonials, and with a lot of them, there's so many testimonials, it's really hard to deny that something's going on. Look at all these people from all across the world who don't have any connection to each other, and they're having the same experience, that kind of stuff. Really cool. But the book on reincarnation is called Many Lives, Many Masters, and it's super duper cool. Highly recommend that one. But what was I talking about that? So yes, being white and, competition in the business and all these different things. But, I really don't believe that there's a competition. I believe that there's always sort of a best person for the job, or a best person for the person who's hiring for the job, which tends to be more the case. The person who's hiring for the job is looking for somebody who they're comfortable with on whatever level. It's really about lining up with their sensibilities, their story sensibilities. Often it's about feeling like that person is malleable to them, feeling like they have something over them in a good way. Like and they don't even realize that they're doing this most of the time, but it's just about being comfortable as a person in a superior position to have to talk to a person in an inferior position. I know sometimes I've kind of intimidated some of the editors that I've dealt with, because I come from this celebrity world where my dad's a rock star, and I'm this big geek and I love to make comics. And it's sometimes it's hard for people to believe, and other times I definitely get kind of the sense, and I've been told, that it's like, and I don't mean to make myself feel like a big deal, because it's like, I'm not a big deal, man. I try to be awesome, but I'm a human like anybody else. But some people, a lot of people, are affected by celebrity connections, and it does change the dynamic between me and the editor. Like, I'm a writer, but to a certain degree, they feel like they need to treat me like a celebrity writer, and that's hard when you're just starting out. And it's actually like a bad dynamic for me, because it puts like a weird pressure on them that like they shouldn't have. Like, I'm humble. I would take your notes. I am a new writer. Please give me your notes. I'd love to learn, whatever it is you have to offer. But there are these weird like power dynamics that go, and that leads to people picking people that they want to work with based on like who they're most comfortable working with. And you see a thing like in Hollywood, where there seems to be a general consensus. I know there isn't quite a general consensus. The people who don't agree, which are plenty, they kind of just keep their heads down and keep their mouths shut because they want to keep their jobs. But, it seems like there's a general consensus, and largely it's because the people at the top of the thing have accumulated the people of like minds, below them, and it trickles down in that way. And now once all the bosses think a certain way, everybody else has to think in lockstep. Now, but I mean it, talented people cannot be afraid to help other talented people and learn from each other and grow together and form together, to form communities. Me and my best friend Aaron Sparrow always talk about, he and I, we were talking about making a business together. At the same time, he could do a business on his own and I could do a business on my own. Like I'd rather like us both create businesses and have them be side by side, and like and that can be done together. Like, whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it in harmony with the other people around you and support each other and bring everybody up. I really believe that community is a huge thing. I was at the Mythic Legions Con this past weekend, which was awesome, with my son, seeing Aaron Sparrow, who's got a company with his buddy Jesse Quintero. Shout out to the other Jesse. What up? Jesse's a fucking paratrooper, and he told me this rad story about how he I think he said he's done like 65 jumps or something like that. He was a paratrooper in the Army, but he's really kind of beat up from it. And in one of his jumps, he jumped out of the airplane. And I guess the setup, I should say, is I guess the bottom of what you can jump is 500 feet, and the top of what you can jump is like 800 feet, I guess, to be under the radar or whatever. And they had like 10 planes stacked up within this 300-foot range, and they didn't know they were the very bottom plane. So he jumped out, and there's like this swing that occurs as the air hits the chute, and you swing up, and then you swing back, and then literally he hit the ground when he started to swing forward. So he swung. I just like felt it as I viscerally felt what that felt like as I said it. Bang! Ooh, Jesse Quintero. He's the man. They both do these awesome custom action figure heads and pieces, especially doing a lot for the Mythic Legions, which they were there for the Mythic Legions Con. But you should check out their company. It's Big Head Studios. I know you can find it, online or whatever if you search it up or whatever. But if you're an action figure person and you love toys, so shout out to them. And they were there selling stuff. And me and my son had an awesome time. Cassidy went around looking at everything and collecting stickers for his room and posters, and bought a bunch of things, and there was just tons of goodwill, and it's an incredible community that is being built from the Four Horsemen Studios action figure line of Mythic Legions, and its ability for them to be customized and for you to kind of interact with the fans. It's so amazing. Next year, my company, Killer Rabbits Company, my publishing company, we're going to be there with a reprint of the Mythic Legions comic book that we did for Four Horsemen Studios not too long ago. But it was great to see it. They keep moving it to a larger venue each time, and it was really just like, it was cool. It was just tons of craftsmen, tons of toy craftsmen. I'm a big toy guy. I loved that. It was super inspiring for me. And I was just so happy to see it. So happy to see the Four Horsemen, or at least two of the three. Even though they're called Four Horsemen, their fourth horseman left long ago. So it's really just the three men. But they've got a whole bunch of people working with them now. But they are just incredible craftsmen, and because of this great, wonderful work ethic and everything at making toys and opening it to a community, having them be customizable. Like, they've created a world around them of just grateful fans. It's wonderful. It's wonderful, and it's exactly what I want to build as a comic book professional and a creative person in the world. I just want to continue that kind of thing. Like, I just want us all to come together, and I hate all these ways how online we've been like taken apart, and there's just should be more venues of us being craftspeople and trading and being kind. And I'm sitting here staring at an action figure, a Mythic Legions action figure, a custom painted Mythic Legions action figure that was $50, and I was just having like a chat with one of the guys that I worked on the Mythic Legions comics, and I love this stuff, but I had like some fires, I lost my toys, and right now, like, I was very focused on just like Marvel Legends, because it was just like one thing at a time, because like it's just like so much money to try to go and reclaim my collection. I mean, I'm pacing myself, and really, actually, I'm building my business, so I'm like not really buying anything. And that was the thing that I said to him. I said Batman over there, Aaron Sparrow. I'm like, he's bought like 90% of my Marvel Legends collection that I have right now, and like probably my girlfriend like the other piece, and a couple other people have given me a couple things, and the dude just looked at me and went, "Well, here you go, my friend. Which one do you like, this one or this one?" And they had like two, like one shaded red and one shaded blue. It's really dope looking. I actually always wanted this figure in particular. I was like the way it looked. This is a slight variation of it, but it's custom and super cool and really means something that he gave it to me. And, so I got it sitting here. And that's it. That's a community, geek culture community that I grew up experiencing, where I approach Jimmy Palmiotti at a little convention in, New York City. It's like everybody's crammed in and all these old comics and stuff, and just like stop him in the middle of the hallway, and he signs a bunch of books for me very merrily, and versus, let's say, Jim Lee, and I, same thing happened, and I just asked him if he would sign something for me. It was just, I think, a book, and it was just like, no. And it's okay, it's all right, it's okay. There's like, it doesn't mean Jim's a piece of crap or anything. There's been like a Hollywoodization of the world, of this entertainment medium, and there's so many reasons for it, and I really want to talk about it, because I mean, like, the title of this episode is going to be something like celebrating defeat, the Marvels, and what happens when you piss off the tastemakers. And the world of geek culture is a world of fire and passion. Fire and passion creates fandoms. And we love the thing like it is. Can you make it better? Yeah, if you're smart about it. Can you change it and make it better? Yes, if you're really smart about it. But we want it as close to the thing that we like as possible. So any changes are going to be based on the thing that we like. But you've changed it to improve it. You've done things that the creative person couldn't exactly see at that moment because their perspective was small, because they were on a deadline, blah, 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 or they didn't have enough issues to stretch a dramatic moment or something like that. Like, a good example of this is The Walking Dead. Was it a great idea for them to let Shane live longer in the thing and there be awkwardness between the friends and all this stuff? Fuck yes. It was a great fucking idea. And Robert Kirkman said, he didn't do it. There were reasons why he didn't do it that were just sort of circumstantial to a certain degree, and he just needed drama, for each issue to keep everything going. So it's like he didn't have time to let a character live, kind of thing. He had to like make you care about him and then move on with his life. But in the circumstances of the TV show, it was worth keeping that character around longer before he was eventually killed off. And a decision like that is not a bad one. There are some decisions in The Boys that I really approve of. The Boys, I'm a huge fucking Garth Ennis fan. Garth Ennis is a comic book writer. He's very well known for writing The Punisher, but the things that I'm like, I love him for are Preacher, which he did at Vertigo, and a book called Hitman, which was in the DC Universe continuity and is just a wonderful fucking absurdity. I highly recommend Hitman to anybody. If you want to get into Hitman and you like to laugh, I should say, if you'd like to laugh and you want to get into comics, Hitman's a really good way to jump in. There's I think 6 graphic novels or something. It's like 60 issues or so. But it's fantastic. It's really just irreverent and silly and wonderful, but like mature. It's a really balanced kind of book. It's really an interesting one. I remember I handed my brother Shane every awesome comic book like miniseries run and everything that I had ever read in order so he could like best enjoy it, kind of thing. And I remember Hitman was a favorite of his as well. So two Snyder brothers agree. But then we're the only two that have read it. But there you go there. Yeah. I mean, it's just so, Hollywood is tone deaf, and it's partially because they think we're stupid. But one, we're not stupid. And I think, the Pixar movies prove this. People tell me all the time, they're like, man, it's for kids or it's this or whatever. And I'm like, what? Fuck you. I'm like, how dare you offer such awful fiction to children? I think Pixar as a company proves, and I think they've gotten a little bit more infantile as time has gone on, but they proved and in some ways continue to prove that the audience for children are quick on the uptake. They understand. If you lay out a real world and real stakes and these films, when done right, are fabulous teaching moments for children. Do not write down to children. Don't make it stupid because it's a superhero movie. And I think this is a lot of what is going on, this thing of like thinking that we're stupid. However, I think that they learned very quickly that the fans of this stuff were not actually stupid. And then they resorted to trickery to continue to feel superior in this way that we're stupid by playing us in various capacities and actually using us as a PR diversion for bad films that they make and bad television shows. And when things aren't received right, with the Marvels right now, they're blaming fucking men for the Marvels. The audience was 65% men. And like the demographics were like sort of weird on like what women were showing up. Like it's like I think it was like a 35% women of like a certain age. So I guess it was like a certain amount of younger girls, but like 65% men were in the theater for the Marvels. And you've made, hey ladies, it's like a propaganda flick. Like I didn't even watch it. Like I avoid the ones that I think I'm not gonna enjoy. And maybe if my kids want to watch it later, or my brother-in-law was saying that he was gonna bring me to to see it. He was going to bring us all to see it. He was like, "No, we're going to see it," and I was like, "I don't know, I'm seeing it, but okay." But I mean, like this notion that it's like some sexism that's going on. Like the women who were watching the Marvel Universe loved it already. Women love masculine entertainment when it's done right. Like it doesn't the male power fantasy goes both ways, you know. And you know, and not to say you even have to be a woman who's like into this sort of male power fantasy. And I fucking hate that term. Actually, you know what? Can I say that? Like I want to fucking throw that shit out into the garbage. The male power fantasy. Look at the male power fantasy, because I don't look at any of the material like that at all. You know, for me, it's all about these extremes. You know, it's Superman he's living up to a certain ideal, and he's got to hold himself to a hard line of not killing. You know, he's got all the power in the world, but he can't just break your neck. You know, that's a great challenge for this thing. Batman being like the pinnacle of a human being, what a human can be with their mind and their body. You know, these things. This is important. You know, Steve Rogers is the pinnacle of patriotism. He is the right thing. He always does the right thing. He always knows the right thing, even if that includes abandoning his government when he feels that they've turned their back on the American ideal, which he's done at times. And you know, like that's who Steve Rogers is. Steve Rogers really means it. Superman really means it. Batman really means it. They're all the way in their particular polarity. And Batman goes up to this line of, "I will beat your ass to a pulp, but I won't kill you." Superman won't even do that usually. It's very rare for him. You know, that's always like oh my God, Superman, like there's blood. You know, like Superman will kill you and like it's okay. Like he won't kill you. He'll, you know, knock you out, you know, whatever. Superman will take care of you. You know, that's one of the big problems with Carol Danvers. You know, Carol Danvers could be and could have been everything. You know, like I'm inspired right now. Like if they wanted to make her a thing, okay, first thing they needed to do was honor the past. And in the cinematic universe, they don't, but in the comics, of course, the past have been honored. But in the comics and in the films, what needed to be done was similar to what had been done with Wally West. Carol needed to feel this great obligation to live up to this mantle of Captain Marvel. And she needs to like put herself through some tests, maybe be met by like a cosmic being or whatever, to like bring herself, you know, to like, you know, do the trials of Hercules with Carol Danvers, a cosmic trials of Hercules, where she learns all these lessons and grows as a person to be the hero that deserves to have this great power and deserves to carry on the mantle of Captain Marvel. In the movie, it's and this is always the thing. It's like not only did they race swap, not race swap. Well, they did. Well, not race swap. They gender swapped the Marvel character into Annette Bening, but they made her an old lady in a simulation or whatever. Like Captain Marvel is a superhero who was responsible for great heroics and was somebody worthy of aspiring to be like, who was taking care of, large amounts of people and what's the word? Honing a great power or utilizing a great power in honorable ways. What's the word? He'd been given a great gift and he used it for this great good, and he trained her, and all these different things that made would make her want to live up to something and then go out to try to really prove herself, as opposed to just going like, oh, I have, and I take on this name the other way. Like having her choose like this difficult path because she wants to earn it and she wants to know that she deserves it. And coming back from that, I think they really could have made her a boss bitch in any way that she could. But at the same time, I think just being a bit humble and allowing other people to recognize you're awesome is the way to go. So like, introducing her as a powerhouse, and getting compliments or whatever, but, giving a smile and, and a nod, or whatever. You can keep it small if you want her to be, stoic and, a little butch or whatever. But like, there are ways to do all these things, but you got to do them in ways that are fucking rad and give her something to lean into, because without that thread, like, because that's the one thread she does have in the comics, that she is that person and she is living up to a mantle. It's not played up necessarily a lot. They've played up her military background a lot, which I don't really think is necessarily a great way to go. I mean, this military background, this idea of following orders, I mean, this is what led to the idea of her doing some really dastardly things in the comics during the Civil War too. And I didn't read these books. I had just happened to bow out by then, so I've only like heard about these things, and I just like had one of the things pointed out to me recently, because I knew she was like locking up her friends and kind of thing, which was lame. But going after Miles Morales really hardcore, based on like a dream or something, or a vision of him killing Captain America, and they beat him up and lock him up. He's a little kid. Like that's ugh. I mean, these are really poor choices that Marvel's made. And by doing this thing where she's just being imbued with this crazy power, and then they just have her like, you were always very powerful and now you're imbued with this power, and like it seems like all the power with no responsibility, especially based on a lot of plot things that I hear in this movie. Like basically Carol screws up pretty big time, and then Lady's out for revenge on her. I mean, like, it's like I mean, like, these aren't the kind of struggles we want to see her go through. We want to see her go through struggles before the lives are in her hands. We want her life to be on the line and her to overcome great obstacles. And it's really just like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. What else do I have written here? I said that, so Hollywood learned very quickly, I think, that they couldn't mess around with the fandom, that we really knew things, that we were smart, at least a contingent of us. I mean, we also have children and idiots as well, but there is plenty of us who are very savvy. Comic books are a rich art form. It's artists drawing month in and month out, honing their ability. Some of these artists, their work is just fucking incredible. I talk about it all the time. I mean, it's just really like, there are a lot of art appreciators, art aficionados who read books, people who aren't stupid. And more than that, there's a lot of people invested in the business, and the people invested in the business are not stupid. They want to see the business be as healthy as it possibly can be. As the business shrinks, it makes the percentage of people who are speaking out more so the people who have skin in the game, people who write and produce comic books or draw comic books, people who own stores and trade in comic books and cards and all these things. I mean, granted, things like anime are on the rise, so some savvy stores are able to shift and adjust and get similar things going. But a lot of these people who own these stores, they just don't really know enough about the thing. I've still been real slow adapting with anime because I'm just so into all the other stuff that, like, I always said no. Because some things that I would get into, I don't know. On some levels, I would really like it, and on other levels, I just didn't exactly get it. And I think Akira was one of the first ones that I watched that was really disappointing to me. I was really excited to watch it because I had heard such great things about it. It was the greatest anime of all time. And I remember putting it on, and it was supposed to be the greatest thing. And I was just sort of like, huh, okay. And I didn't really, like, it didn't move me. And I don't know if it was just bad timing and it was built up for me and stuff. And, there's other things that I've given a try to here, there, and I just haven't exactly gotten hooked. Although recently I have gotten into Chainsaw Man. But even that, I'm still only probably halfway through the first season, and I haven't necessarily been ripped back to watch some more, even though I'm into it and I do want to go back and watch some more. But there are some, and I am trying to get into them, but that is where things are going. And I do think that, I'm trying to get into them because I see that's where things are going. I see that's a lot of where the interest my children have. And I see that anime and comics are very similar. I can make comic books like anime books if that's what people prefer. Is that a style that people prefer? So for me, it's just another thing to study as a person who makes these things. And I do think that if you're going to get into a business for yourself on any level, you got to be ready to adjust with things. Me and my buddy were talking about it. There was a coder friend of my friend who's really worried about being replaced by AI. And my friend said, I told her she should start using AI so that it can be a tool that she has so that she can be sought after for the business as it evolves instead of worrying about being replaced by AI. I really agree with that. I've used ChatGPT, whatever, for really small scale writing things. It's just a good tool. Not nothing that and let me rephrase this because it sounds like no, but for an email of I gotta give them basic pitch for this thing that I'm doing, and I've written this email a million fucking times, and I'm I don't have time to write an email. Hey, pitch them on a thing, and then you go in and you readjust all the thing, and you add in a couple of your information, and you finish it faster. It's ways that people are doing their homework and stuff. It's really just future shit. It is a tool that you can use, and I think you can use it very honorably. I also have used what is the other thing? Midjourney. For a couple things. Midjourney, my band Dilf USA, we didn't have any money to put into art or anything for our album. We have album covers that I made using Midjourney and me doing Photoshop, but so I could get original images and then go in there and add logos and stuff to make album covers for our band. I'm sorry, we don't have any money to put into that. It would come out of my baby's mouths to do it. I have to be kind of business minded about certain things as an adult with a family, and I can't spend a lot of money on that. And you have to realize a lot of people can't, and that's a practical reality. And it's a really reasonable and wonderful thing that I can actually have this cool tool that can give me something. Is it going to give me the heart and the soul of having an artist do it? No. Would I rather have an artist do it? Yes. When I release these in the future, am I maybe going to have an artist redo some version of this thing or something? Probably. I'm not going to make this, but it's just online and it's just a picture to represent the single so people can hear our music. We just need an image, So, and I see lots of people making so many YouTube videos and they need an image, I understand. I need an image. I had done something. I have such a tendency to think so big and so many possibilities. I get overwhelmed by certain types of projects. One in particular is writing bios. Because there's just so many ways to write it and approach it, and when I have to write myself a bio about myself, I just I hate having to write about myself. And I know a guy who's got his Coolest Geek alive. I say that whole thing, like it's all sort of like for somebody who that's hard for. Like, I named that thing because it makes me uncomfortable. But I'm on a journey of trying to love myself more, which is, I guess, often the journey of the artist and the struggling artist. But now, thanks to you and this podcast, I'm way less of a struggling artist, and I appreciate all of you guys so much. I mean, really, like, just love being able to come and talk about all this shit, and like, helps me too, because I have it all stored up in my brain. But then getting to talk about it and also reminding myself how much I have on deck waiting to be discussed about all of these things. You know, I should really get to the main thrust of this whole thing. Like, is it okay for the fans to celebrate the defeat of the Marvels? And all right, the Zen master in me says we don't need to do that. That, like, we're better than that. Okay? But the Zen master in me also says we're not living in the Zen master's world. And in the actual world, we're living in a polarization of God's mind. And I mean, this is like spiritual ways of talking about these things. And I mean, I'm sure you've come to some, whether you're an atheist or you're a religious person, you've come to a similar sort of notion of, what people would call good and evil, but is a more nuanced sort of thing of positive and negative and left and right and ebb and flow and so on and so forth. And things move back and forth, and things come to a crescendo. And sort of the bigger the crescendo, the bigger the swing back in the other direction. So I think that the fans recognize that that is indeed the case. The bigger the crescendo of the fall of this thing that we have been calling out as educated fans for fucking years now it's time. Now it's time for this thing to fall, this giant to fall. It is falling. We're watching it fall. Here it is. It's a big crash. And what does everybody do who wants to make sure that you saw it? They go, oh, snap. That's right, motherfucker. We fucking told you. We told you. We've been warning you. We tried to warn you. We were on your fucking side. We were on your side. We wanted this shit to be great. We wanted you to succeed. We wanted Star Trek to succeed. We wanted Star Wars to succeed. We wanted Marvel to succeed, and Indiana Jones to succeed, and Willow to succeed, and the DC Universe to succeed, and Doctor Who to succeed, and The Witcher to succeed. We wanted it all to succeed. We wanted to succeed still. Well, I don't know about that anymore. I mean, I wanted to succeed still. At the same time, I kind of don't. I mean, I would love to see these things done right because they deserve to be. There's just so many stories from these universes. There's so many great novels that deserve to be adapted, and so many, just so many fucking things that should be on the big screen that people would just be so thrilled to be inundated by, that cannot get past the cult of personality that is in Hollywood. Because, I mean, this is the other thing that I really wanted to tell you, because, like, it's all keeping up with the Joneses. It's, people pretending to be cool and pretending to be smart. And, the people who flock there are looking for validation in so many ways. And, it's really true. And I was really reluctant to go to California in the first place for all those reasons. I was kind of dragged there in 2008 because there was like a big financial crash, and a lot of the work in the voiceover world, I was told by my people, had moved to California. And if I wanted access to those jobs, I needed to think about moving. So I moved, and I did end up having a very good run over there in California. I was the voice of Kia Motors for many years. That's when I started being the voice of Food Paradise. I'm still the voice of Food Paradise. Technically, hopefully we'll be coming back for a new season soon, but it's been really crazy over there at the new Discovery merger thing that happened. And that's actually when I started my company, the Killer Rabbits Company, and I did the book for Mythic Legions, and I did the book for Image Comics, Blacklight District, and originally produced King of Kings that we just fundraised for the first issue on Kickstarter so we could print it, which the second issue we're going to be fundraising for probably next year. So the thing about the place, to a certain degree, is, it's either people who are seeking validation or people who want to use it for validation on various levels, to get validation within society, validation as people. It's very showy. And these people, they're not really big, deep readers. There are some people that read scripts and stuff, but there's literally a job called script readers where they hire people who like to read, because these people generally don't like to read. That's what you're dealing with. You've got script. If the script readers like your script, yay. It's like, it's not like these people are like they want to read as few scripts as possible, a lot of these people, because it's way more about moving and shaking and getting money in Hollywood, and it's really the financial side of everything tends to be the dominant factor. I'm trying to build a business coming up from a community side of things, and I think there are more and more businesses coming up from a community side of things that are far more sustainable for you and the communities that you get to give the gift of your bounty to. But in Hollywood, it's like the financial thing at the top, and I have it like on such good authority that like these budgets are as bloated as they are because people are stealing money from the productions. The bigger the budgets, the easier it is to steal from the productions. And as these budgets get really big, various people in various positions who have maneuvered themselves as in-betweeners and whatnot are taking money out of the equation that other people aren't being told about, given, whatever else. It's happening all the time. And then, the way they do their accounting, they don't pay people like that they owe money to for years and years, because they'll tell them that their movies aren't profitable. So they make all these deals, and then it'll take forever to pay lots of people sometimes. It's really crazy. It's a real racket all across the world. All industries have become rackets. They all are. I've got a new song coming out from my band. We're trying to rush out the video right now because it's about the strikes, and it's a funny little thing on it called "Money Ain't Funny," and and it's just these union talks. It's just like they're so incestuous. They become so incestuous over time. There's so many ways to incentivize people to wheel and deal, and the power is with these money people, and they just use that power over us to just never allow a equalization of the systems. Mark Millar recently called for what I would call an equalization of the systems, offering 50% and small page rates to good creators, to get big name creators to come in and make things for them. And I want to believe that somebody will do that at the Big Two, I should say that the Big Two will do that, because there are other companies who do versions of that, and I commend all of the companies who do versions of that. That is awesome. I was freaking fighting. I was supposed to get 10% ownership over something that they couldn't have done without me. Granted, they gave us the title, and they had some basic assassin factions that they wanted in this thing, and I was supposed to get 10%, and I ended up freaking fighting with them for 5%. And literally the words in my song are, money ain't funny when it's used this way. It should be 50-50, but you hear them say 60-40, my friend, maybe 90-10. The money always gets you in the end. And I was like, as I was accepting the 10, I was like, I'm getting the low end of my song. And then it switched to 5, and I was like, fucking fuckers. Like, it's so aggravating. The how difficult it is. I mean, my editor told me I didn't have a leg to stand on, basically, when I asked him if I would have any ownership over Dead Romeo that I created for DC Comics from soup to nuts. The title I created for them, and you know, the premise they freaking tore apart until it was basically just the simplest fucking premise. But I created every character in that book. I don't have a leg to stand on. I created the book. Like, it's kind of crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy that sort of thinking is the thing that goes into this. I mean, but again, this is some of that Hollywood thinking. I mean, that's how they play it. You know, they buy these scripts off people. They own the script. You know, it's not like, you know, these writers get taken for a ride, you know, so often. You know, it takes a long time for people to get power, to realize how things are written, how these contracts are written, so that they can get themselves actually paid and whatnot. I mean, just if you read books on writing, you know, you hear writers talk about this stuff all the time. It's a dog eat dog world out there a bit. Why I advocate for building things for yourself and educating yourself enough to do it on your own. It's never been easier to do it on your own. There are libraries everywhere, and the internet is real. You can learn anything. I never stop learning. I never stop learning in the name of, 1, being a better person, and 2, being better at my craft, being a better writer. You know, and sometimes what I'm learning is being dictated by the things that I'm writing, because I want to understand the biblical idea of the 7 sins and things like that, where all that comes from, because I'm working on The Others for Come On Studios, and you know, the subject matter is just all about that, and I really want to understand what the actual Bible is. And but I'm reading the books of Enoch too. Like, I'm reading the things that are like obscured Bible stuff, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and understanding things as deeply as I possibly can, so I can put them into the story in a meaningful way, so that you know, it enriches the experience for the reader, and the reader might be that much more deeply interested in, what was this based on, and where did this come from, and one day could come ask me, and I can tell them, you know, the things that I found, and what I looked for, and how I tried to make it really rich by getting these pieces. And usually I try to name drop a lot of those things in my books. Like I have a bunch of name drop. I don't know. Probably Enoch is maybe mentioned in the Others miniseries that I wrote. This thing hasn't been produced yet. It's kind of just like sitting there because they bought a bunch of licenses, new like really big licenses at the time. So they were like working on some of their things that they owned that were unknown, and then so it got kind of put on hold for a second. But really cool book I did for them. And there's a ton of references, Bible references in there, and other types of references for the purpose of, if somebody wanted to, without having to come talk to me, could possibly go and look up online and find some of these things. You know, I mean, everything I write, and I really think if you're a writer, a creator, artist, whatever, like, you know, everything you create, you should have some sort of intention of like what your reader's going to get from this. And, you know, for me, there was a ton of spiritual things that I really wanted the reader to get out of it. You know, it really ends in a powerful message of love, I guess, is the ultimate thing of the bit, but kind of rising above our baser nature, you know, not fighting fire with fire, I guess, is really the big message of the book. But then also within that, additionally, because I like there to be more, you know, better than you read my whole story and you got one thing out of it, it would be great if you could get many things out of it. So when I'm writing about people and cultures, I try to get in interesting background information that is based on real stuff. You know, I try to get in interesting approaches to magic use that's based on real things. or psychicism or whatever it is. I try to look at the real world. In reality, a lot of these things are far more muted than they would normally be perceived in a comic book for it to be an exciting visual experience or whatever it might be, or at least they're still muted in the world as it vibrates right now. But these things, have a basis in reality, and when you go in to look at those things, you find out that there's all sorts of really cool information that you can base your stories on, which really helps too in terms of the writing and being creative, because the more you understand how the world works, the more you can easily be inspired to a right answer to a story idea. You're like, oh, this happens because this is how the world works, and I knew how the world worked, so I can understand why that's the right answer. If you don't understand how the world works as much, it's harder for you to recognize when a story doesn't work, because you're like, oh, I don't understand how the world works, so why would I understand how this story isn't working? Because I don't really get it. The more you do, the more you go out, the more types of people you deal with and conversations that you have, the better for it you'll be. I'm also a big proponent of watching media, all sorts of media. YouTube and stuff in particular, I think, is great because you can get people's voice, the way they talk, and then there's different characters and whatnot on all these channels, and they're human. They're not cast by Hollywood. It really demonstrates a variety of people when you go to some of those things, and you're looking for that, and also wonderful writers. Great writer David Mamet and William Goldman and people who have made incredible movies. William Goldman is famously as All the President's Men, and The Princess Bride, and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and lots of wonderful films. Marathon Man. William Goldman's written tons of books about screenplay writing. He's awesome. Most wonderful writers write wonderful dialogue. Some wonderful writers are just conceptually really good, and their dialogue's not necessarily super great. But that's a great place too. Quote books. Quote books are the biggest one for me. Quote books was such an early, because I didn't really love to read. I used to have an over-focusing problem. But quotes are nice, short, and sweet, and there's so much to learn in a good quote. One good, concise sentence can have you thinking forever. Really, it's amazing. I highly recommend quote books. Also, books of humor like that, humorous quote books. Quote books. That's a really good one, I think, for writers. I think that was maybe the greatest tool that I've ever used to be good. To this day, I have a worksheet of quotes that I collected from when I was a little kid on my computer that I have managed to have survive to this day, and I will go to it often before I'm doing a story, and I will just look at pieces of quotes that I liked, and pull anything aside that I think is appropriate, nuggets for the story that I'm working on, and give variations of those wisdoms in my books. Just the ideas underlying the merits of the quotes. And often these quotes would lead to me writing stories. Quotes are a great inspiration for stories. Quotes and art books, images, paintings, it's just, you need to be inspired and you need to be open. Grinding and isn't the way. But reading a good book from a master, telling it like it is, letting yourself enjoy some nature, allowing yourself to be inspired by an idea and then working on it, as opposed to slaving over something that you think is necessary. If you do think a certain something is necessary to write, don't force it. Wait to be inspired the thing that you think is necessary. And then when all of a sudden you go, ooh, that's a good version of the thing that I think is necessary. It has to be a kid's book. Okay, well then do it like this. I'm doing this book, the book that I'm about to launch on, what is it now? I'm trying out fundmycomic.com. And with the first 30 days, then we're going to go over to Kickstarter. But it's called Fucking for Our Future. And it's an adult comic book because I found it necessary for feeding my children to go into this space because I hadn't made a big enough name for myself as a comic book writer, even though I've written for everybody and I've done good work, but like I just really haven't done long enough runs. I mean, really just a little snippet here, a little snippet there, a little snippet there. A lot of that's because I do a lot of other things. I'm a musician, I'm a voiceover actor, I'm a host, I've been shooting TV shows and whatnot all the time doing these other things. So the fact that I've actually done as many comics as I have is a testament to my work ethic to comics, and I would have done even a lot more if various things. It's a little bit of shyness with me, but a lot of it is just the industry and my unwillingness to succumb to stupidity. Although I'm sure I'll work with all these companies again. I want to do good work for them. I want to see Marvel and DC rise to the top. I at least I want to see great stories be told with these characters because I really think they represent some things. They've come to represent some things that are worthy telling stories about, and there are many things that people can learn from these stories that can be told, and I want to write some of them. So anyway, I did Fucking for Our Future because it's a place where I know I can go and make money and get a name for myself because there's a big audience there. So I can at least build a name for myself there with this one audience, and maybe I can drag them from my nudie books into another thing. So what did I do? I went, well, I'm really uncomfortable with this nude book thing. I don't like it because I don't like it, and I asked myself, well, why don't I like it? And I was like, well, I really don't like it because it affects the story. If you see the person naked on the cover, it makes them look soft. There's any number of reasons why it kind of like it changes how you look at the character. So I don't like because of that. And then I was like, all right, well, what if I made a book where it's centered around the nudity? The nudity was actually part of the story, and the covers would just be depicting moments from the story, essentially. And then I went, ooh, I like that. But then I didn't immediately sit down and like force something onto a paper. I came up with an idea eventually when it came to me. I went, okay, all right, yeah, maybe I will. And I put it aside. And it wasn't that long. It didn't take that long. Once I had like a little bit of an idea, and inspiration came to me relatively quickly. But it wasn't like I had to muscle it into position and I had to figure out this thing based on all these other things. And literally like lightning hit my brain and I was like, fucking for our future, like it's a book about like we're having to save the human race because men and women have separated. And and now and I thought it was really clever that I'm like, and we've got this like woman, but it's a robot, it's a sex robot that they're sending out into the wilderness with with a woman inside, to collect these sperm samples from these men with these giant penises because they've de-evolved into animals. Well, they genetically modified themselves. They're called the three-legged men. And then there's these little petite women up north whose cloning machines aren't working anymore and they need sperm samples. But so this, I really think, was a very inspired idea, but I didn't force it. It just kind of came to me, and I really think it's been universally beloved. And the things that just kind of come to me like that, they're the ones that people get the quickest and are the most excited about beside me and are like, oh, I can't wait until you do that one. It really like don't force the thing. And there's a lot of that going on. But getting back to the point, the biggest attribute of these people is that they don't allow themselves to develop or have or won't let their good taste show through. Because they're more concerned with keeping their jobs. And I totally understand this. In this world, once you become an adult and you have a family and you're trying to live your life, you'll see how important that really does become for a lot of people. And this keeping your job mentality, it does not lead to these things being done right. So what do you have? You have tons of yes men, essentially. In a superficial culture, you have everybody blowing sunshine up each other's butts and then relying upon the sunshine system, the system of sunshine up butts for your survival. So like, everybody's sort of maintaining to save face because nobody wants to look bad, together. And then like you'll see things all the time where like people get thrown to the wolves, all of these things. Like right now they're trying to blame everything that's going on at Disney, not on Bob Iger, but on Bob Chapek, who was brought in for like, I don't know if he was even there for more than 2 years. And it's like all his fault. Everything's gone wrong because of him. No, man. Like all these problems were created a decade ago, and the fans were yelling at you that they were happening. We were yelling. We were telling you this is fucking happening. It's just crazy. So I mean, is celebrating defeat okay? Yeah, I think it's fucking appropriate in this case. I really do. I think it's just the fans attempting to push the what is it when you do the tetherball? To push the tetherball as far back in the other direction as humanly possible, because this tetherball was about to reach the top, and it did. It reached the top. So I mean, really, we're going restart, and like everybody is shouting, "Hey guys, like we called this ages ago. We thought maybe Quantum Mania might have been okay. We thought maybe some of these TV shows might have been okay. But we told you the Marvels was going to be a fucking stinker. And here you are after everything that you've done and the Marvels. It's just like, it's just like the giant beast smashing to the ground and like coming in for a landing. I just saw the Puss in Boots, the recent Puss in Boots, the animated Puss in Boots, which is fucking great. Sliding into the ground like on his face. It's like it's a monster sliding into place behind you. There you go. He's fucking dead. Turn around. You need to freaking do something. Like the people who are yelling, as my parents might have said, we only yell at you because we love you. If we didn't care, we wouldn't say anything. My parents were right, and the fans are right. And they're yelling at you, Marvel, because they fucking love you. Now, I'm going over my usual hour, so I'm just going to try to wrap it up with one last thing, because I just wanted to talk about this real quick. Within the Marvels, there is a character that I do believe is actually working and does actually work. I don't care for the character myself, but she is a functional comic book character. She is an extreme thing that she represents. She represents the fangirl of Captain Marvel. If Captain Marvel was built better, it would be a more functional place. The problem really with Kamala is that Captain Marvel's not built better, so Kamala being cute and geeking out in various ways and, possibly getting to be taught to be a little bit more stoic and cool by Carol Danvers, that doesn't exactly get to play out. Well, I mean, it does, but at the same time, it doesn't land because Carol has not exactly made herself happy with the fans. But she really is like a Rose Tico kind of character from The Last Jedi. I contend that Rose Tico, it's not actually that Rose Tico is a bad character, but she's not the type of character that you focus on because she's annoying and aggravating to your main characters. So your audience feels uncomfortable with them. Like that kiss, it really was like, dude, clearly he's not into you. It's so funny. It's just there's so many double standards for men and women in this modern system that they make, and I just would love everybody to be held like to a similar standard. And I think that there was so many things about her behavior that were inappropriate. Talk about like ingratiating yourself to a character. Like the first thing she does is try to lock up Finn for leaving when he wasn't leaving. He was trying to go find Rey. So like, just like that right there, just like, and that was like the writer going, nope, you're not going to do what the audience expects of you and wants you to do. Instead, you're going to hang out with this annoying character who, like, she is a real character, just like Kamala's kind of an annoying character on that level. But you can write an annoying character as sweet and endearing over time. I'm a big fan of Ernest P. Worrell.
I love Ernest movies. I mean, Jim Varney's Ernest is a great example of very annoying but still charming. I really do believe that there are annoying but charming done right, and you can do that. You can make that happen, and she is an annoying but charming sidekick, Kamala Khan. And Rose Tico, in small doses, could have been a perfectly wonderful foil, interesting character as well that you might care about, shown different things, made to feel, kind of bad for her in the right ways, as a character, see her working and struggling to better herself, blah, blah, blah. All these things would make you like her. But in high doses, right off the bat, the type of character that she is, she's that not a great one. Kamala, when done right, I think she's been fine in things that I've read, and I the way I think of her as a character, I like her. I see her as a character that is functional. She's the first like sidekick taking up the mantle, but I'm like kind of like a fangirl, and I've chosen your mantle thing. I think if Carol Danvers was doing that more again with Marvel in her book, that would be even more meaningful with Miss Marvel doing the same, and that would mean that it would mean something to her that Miss Marvel was doing that for her. These are all things that would be really good character building. Yeah. Anyway, the fans are right. They're not fucking sexist. They're not racist. They're not all these things. They're just on the internet, and they don't feel bad about saying things that they think might trigger you. And they're literally like, they're baiting people. I mean, once everybody knew what the trigger words were online, there was a certain contingent of people who were like, I'm not playing this game. I'm going to use all the trigger words, and I'm just going to be a total heel to you because I think you're being absurd, and I don't want your way of thinking to win in society. And I'm telling you, that is largely what has happened in society on social media. There is a contingent of people who are like, I do not want this word police bullshit to stand. Honestly, I don't want this word police bullshit to stand either, but I'm not a real believer in super strong arm tactics. I prefer like a softer approach to trying to encourage people in directions that I think are perhaps better than the current direction we're going. But a lot of people out there aren't like me. They want to just fucking get what they want right now. And the way they're trying to do that is by standing up to it, by baiting everybody online. And I mean, like, I've had people who have like, but Jesse, and they show me this exchange that they had with this person. And I literally, at a certain point reading it, I went, dude, I'm sorry to say, this person is not hateful. They just see that they have your number and they're fucking with you because they see what all your issues are and all your things are. So they're naming all the things that they think might poke at you because you've made it so easy to poke at you because you've so clearly defined where all your sticking points are, the things that you won't stand for. Okay, well, how about this? How about I make fun of this? How about I make fun of that? It's really easy when you become very dogmatic about various political or religious positions for people to poke at you. And that is what's happening online. And I'm sorry, like I understand that everybody's mad, that the industry is mad as a whole, but you've just allowed yourself to be antagonized. And from somebody like me who saw what was happening as it was fucking happening and never got antagonized and just literally was watching my friends in the industry get antagonized, going, oh God, guys, you're just like letting these motherfuckers antagonize you. Like, I know all about it. I was a VJ on MTV2 when I was 19. Like, I fucking got roasted. Like, I had to learn to take it. I had to learn to take getting fucking, taken apart, let alone that. People find out who I am. I'm Dee Snider's son. And I had a garage band at the time. My band got roasted. Got fucking just like eaten alive by people looking at, me from this vantage point. It's like the internet is not an easy place, and Hollywood cannot shut down to the benefits of having an audience be able to really viscerally respond. And they can't just listen to a single article written by somebody on CBR. Fucking the so many of the people who want to write and want to do these things, they just want to be heard. And and I mean, hey, that is a partial motivation for me. Like, like I want to, I feel, well, really, I feel very misunderstood, and I want to live in a world where different people who are different can be better understood. It's one of the reasons why I like the Muppets, because I feel like it's a group of people who are all kind of misunderstood. And I hope that one day we live in a world where we understand each other. And, so I'm motivated to write things that help us understand each other. And I think, generally speaking, all writing and all stories help us understand each other by pitting one thing against another thing and seeing how they interact and seeing what happens when this thing does this thing and this thing does that thing. And the best writing teaches us about life and about the world. And the best superhero comics teach us about those things and ourselves and our limits, and they demonstrate limits. They bring characters to the outer limits of who they can be. I don't think they've done that yet with the Captain Marvel character, not in the comics, and certainly not in the films. And a little bit they've got it going on with Kamala Khan. Spectrum, she's never really been. She was pushed hard in the 80s when I wasn't reading. I'm not like super familiar with that character other than a couple appearances in some other books. Like, she showed up in a book called Next Wave, which is super cool book. Next Wave, worth checking out. I think Warren Ellis wrote it. Good one. Stuart Eminem artwork, cool one. But I see a good one for Marvel to adapt one day. It's something that's super cool that like is under the surface that they have. That's like a winning hand if they can adapt it correctly. But yeah, so I don't have a lot of like experience with her, but she certainly has not reached any sort of pinnacle of anything. Reed Richards is the smartest man alive, and then he's got his family around him who went through the cosmic rays with him. Bruce Banner is a brilliant scientist who can't seem to solve his one biggest problem, the Hulk. He's in this perpetual battle to get his Hulk thing under control so he can keep it away from the military as a weapon. Spider-Man's lost his uncle, and with great power comes great responsibility. And Captain America needs to uphold and feels righteously that he should uphold the patriotism of the American dream at all costs. These are the pinnacles. The other people end up being measured against them. So Falcon isn't really necessarily a great like forever Captain America, because Captain America represents that thing. He was it beforehand and he was it afterwards, and Falcon sort of came to be inspired by and be friend of Cap. So if Cap died and it was time for him to take up the mantle kind of thing, and granted Cap got old or whatever, it is appropriate. It just you don't view him as the pinnacle. You view him as having learned from the pinnacle and being someone who appreciates the pinnacle like you do. You can write that book, and Wally West is a great example of living up to the mantle of the Flash, but he's he's doing exactly the Flash thing. I mean, granted, I guess Captain America, Falcon's still the Captain America even though he's got wings, so I guess that's similar. But you really have to base it around honoring the original character. It can't be about how much pizzazz the new character has. And in general, for a long time, you're going to have the deal of the other people who like the original character wanting that original character back. But if you honor that character for the long time and you make that like a pillar of that character's existence, you can make it a thing, as it's been in a lot of other books. So I mean, there are different ways to do it, but you'll see how when you take somebody who existed in the one mantle and you sub into the other guy, they just always end up, they just got an uphill battle. It's not their fault. Could be a great character. When you put actually the best time that I ever saw it work was when Grant Morrison put Nightwing into the Batman cowl, but he put Batman's son as Robin. So now all of a sudden Dick Grayson was was a lighter Batman bringing up a darker Robin that was Bruce Wayne's son. That created such an interesting dynamic and rich thing that I think that was the first time ever that I didn't care that it wasn't Batman in the thing. Granted, like a future story about that. Well, I mean, he's only a little kid once, so you got to write it now. But that was great. I really fucking enjoyed the hell out of that dynamic. But generally speaking, whenever you bump anybody from the previous role, there's a certain thing, and you have to give somebody a purpose before it really takes on with people. Like, I got into Kyle Rayner's Green Lantern, which was a good one, and I know a lot of people really like that one too. Judd Winnick was writing that, dude who was famously one of the people on The Real World back in the day. But I like Judd Winnick's writing. Read a lot of stuff that he wrote, and I liked his Kyle Rayner. However, I wouldn't say that Kyle Rayner really took on some real meaning until all of a sudden he was given the ion power. And the ion power was essentially like the white light of creation, the full spectrum of all the thing. It was a really certain bit of the Green Lantern lore, and it made him special in a way different from the other Green Lanterns that was missing from him in a lot of ways. That specialness. You have to find that for all the characters that you create. Who is the strongest person in the Marvel Universe or the DC Universe is an important question, because it creates a scale to be looking at everything and makes all of the shapes different. You know, he's the strongest, but he's the fastest. You know, it doesn't matter that he's the strongest because he's the fastest. It doesn't matter that he's the fastest because he's the smartest. You know, all of those things really do play, because it's not so much about real people. It's about archetypes that represent things within your world. You know, there's always the fastest runner. There's always the strongest person. You know, you go to a gym, there he is. That's the strongest guy. You know, you can usually tell. You know, you go to the track and there's a winner in the race. It's the fastest guy. And when we tell stories, adventure stories, we always want to hear about the fastest or the strongest or the smartest or the bestest at doing the fucking thing. We don't want to hear about second place. Second place can be an antagonist, but first place is who we want to hear about. We wouldn't want to hear about the Fantastic Four if Reed Richards isn't the smartest person in the universe. And if you decide to tell us that, oh, no, in this universe it's Tony Stark, fuck you. Tony Stark is the smartest person in the Marvel Universe right now because he's stolen that from Reed Richards. But really his thing is he's a millionaire industrialist. Mr. Fantastic is the smartest person in the universe, rivaled by Dr. Doom, who wants to fucking kill him because of it. And you know, like these are the wonderful, simple archetypes of jealousy and intelligence and savvy. And you know, because Mr. Fantastic's intelligent, he always finds his way out of it, similar to Superman. With Mr. Fantastic, his family's always on the line. The stakes are a little bit higher. You know, Superman, the stakes can be a little bit lower or seem a little bit lower often, or under the stewardship of lesser writers, a little bit lower. You can crank them up if you're smart. And really, when people say well, how are we supposed to create? How are we supposed to be creative? You know, there are ways to create. I think people get locked in certain ways of doing things, and you know, they don't continue their journey in learning to be really good writers and learning to bring new things to the table and to really engage with their authors. For those writers out there, there is one great book that I will recommend as homework before I say goodnight tonight or today or whatever. And it will really rock your world as a writer or as just a storyteller in any way, shape, or form. And it's called Wired for Story. I forget who wrote it, but I've been meaning to read it again just to remind myself of all these things. But it'll really just flip your whole mind upside down about what is happening when you're writing something, when people are engaging with you in a book or a comic book or anything that you've written or put, when they're engaging, what is it that they're really looking for in their like lizard brains? What is the stuff on the inside of them that makes them tick, that makes them get excited and makes them get into the subject matter? And I think you will be very surprised what the actual answers to that is. And the short answers are that it's just that they need characters who desire something very much and work very hard to get it, so that the audience can root for them to have it, essentially. That's it. I mean, really, read the book, because it's like mind-blowing, the information that's in there, because it's just a lot of science, and when you start to look at it, you just go, wow, the way consciousness actually works when you break it down to all these different levels, and the way storytelling is actually working. I mean, like, these are the things that the CIA knows, and anybody who wants to program your mind. Very good things to know for you as a writer, because you want to program the reader's mind in a lot of different ways. Of course, you could also use the power for evil, but I wouldn't. But this is the type of power unleashed in the book of Wired for Story. Highly recommend that one. Anyway, that's it, my fellow Coolest Geeks. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening to another awesome show. I hope you've enjoyed the past few episodes. This one, I really just wanted to like talk about so many things in relation to this, and I know I was a little bit all over the place, but just I'm so tired of these motherfuckers blaming the fans for their bullshit, and I'm glad the fans are making a big stink, and this is freaking total doo-doo on the face of Marvel and all of the fandom that they have been ignoring for all this time. I love you, fandom, all you YouTubers like Nerdrotic and Doomcock and Midnight's Edge and WDW Pro and Thinking Critical and just so many other people that I'm missing right now, but like who I love and have been like, you know, carrying the torch for the fandom on YouTube. And I don't know if there are other people who have been doing it on the podcast world, but thank you to all of you guys who have been speaking sense and not allowing this sort of shout you down, you sexist, shout you down, you racist thing. You know, I know a lot of these guys have been demonized as fan baiters. Generally speaking, I really think they're all very reasonable, rational people. And I think if you engage with them longer than a moment, you will see that is the truth. There are so many people who have been fighting for the fandom, and we have been right. We've been right all along, and I just there's no other way to say it. I just hope that the powers that be learn the right lessons from these financial losses, and that is they need to listen to their fans. And if they do, they can have great prosperity and they can get the masses back. But you have to please the baseline fans first. We are the tastemakers. We are the ones that make the other people care. We're also the ones who the other people don't want to argue with because we know so much about the subject matters that we deal with, and we love this stuff so much. So our opinion holds more weight. Our weighty opinion is what matters. Please us first. Please us good. Make it feel great. I love you guys. I'm your passionate geek culture commentator, Jesse Blaze Snyder. You can write to me at jesseblaze@jessesnyder.com. I'm also on Twitter at it's not Twitter anymore. It's X. I'm on X at Coolest Geek JBS. I love you all so much, and I really look forward to hearing from you in either of those places. Anyway, thank you again for listening to my show, and I hope you will join me again next Wednesday and this coming Saturday for another ass-kicking episode of the Coolest Geek Alive, where I am going to be doing something fucking awesome. I'm going to be ranking the Marvel Studios phases 4 and 5 alongside phases 1, 2, and 3, because I had made some, like, I made for fun, I made a list back in the day of my favorite Marvel Universe shit, and I went through my old magazine and my old notebook, and I updated my list, and then I added phases 4 and 5, and I want to talk about where phases 4 and 5 ended up in my list of the greatest MCU properties of all time. I'll tell you this, it's not fucking good. Anyway, I will see you on Saturday, I hope. I love you all. Join me again next time for another fabulous episode of the Coolest Geek Alive!
It's my favorite part. be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snyder. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
You like that? It's a kazoo solo. Play that too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living your shit. My voice is gonna be fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right or text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. Straight to the top. Awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
The podcast playground. Hooray!